Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to start with the County Commissioners meeting. Tom?
Good evening, all. I'm called to order the January 29th, 2025 Nantucket County Commissioners meeting at 5:30. Our first order of business is announcements. County Commission meeting is being audio and video recorded. Next up is public comment for items otherwise not on the agenda, and we will have select board comment for when we do start select board as well. Seeing none. This is for county commissioners. We'll have, I'm assuming select board? Sure. Yes, sir. There's no new business as far as I know. Item 5, approval of minutes and warrants. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes of December 18th, 2024 at 5:30 and the approval of payroll and treasury warrants.
So move, second?
Moved by Matt, second by Malcolm.
Sure. I thought Don, I thought Brooke did.
Sorry, and I just wanted to note that that Don Holge is remote, so all votes will have to be by roll call.
Yeah.
Thank you, Erica. Vote by roll call. Matt?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That passes unanimously. Next up is item 6. This will be a public hearing to consider the taking of permanent and temporary easements over portions of Lover Lane, Okerawa, Monahasset Road, 1 White Street, 1 Skyline Drive, 1 to 3 Webster Road, 87 Skyline Drive, Nantucket Municipal Airport, 1 Evergreen Way, 21 Airport Road, portion of Rugged Road, 55 Old South Road, 8 Skyline for the purpose of roadway improvements, and the rest of the is listed in the packet. We'll throw this over to our real estate specialist, Tracy McDonald, to introduce the item.
Thank you. As part of Phase 2 of the Surfside Area Transportation Enhancement Project in the Lovers Lane, Okewar Avenue, and Monahasset Road area, I'm here tonight to request approval and execution of the order of taking by eminent domain of easements for temporary construction, drainage, slope, and permanent utility as indicated on the plan shown as sheets 1 through 10 and recorded as plan number 2025-1 at the Nantucket Registry of Deeds. The town has previously held a public information session on August 14, 2024, hosted by the project team to present the design elements, estimated timeline, overview for the easement taking, bidding, and construction. The project has also been previously presented to the select board and has consistently been posted on the town's website. Tonight, I'm here for the next step so the team can move forward with the bidding process for the project. We have followed all the procedural steps, and Town Council Vicky Marsh has prepared the order of taking before you tonight. She is in attendance should there be any procedural questions, as well as Drew Patno, the DPW director, should there be any specific questions regarding the easement.
Thank you, Tracy. Eric, if I didn't say I'm going to open the public hearing. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody here to speak on this matter?
Can we just say that for the people that just walked in, this is the public hearing for the taking of easements along Monahasset Road, Lovers Lane, Okerawa. So if you are here to speak, you can come to the mic. Or I can
take a mic, right?
Bring a mic to you. I know, Lily. Do you want to speak?
No, I just want to know what's going on the corner of Webster, like you're coming in on that easement there. How far in are you coming in on Webster?
Hold on 1 second, Lily. I'm going to bring you, Charles is bringing you a mic so you can speak and everybody can hear you.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, honey.
Please state your name for the
Right
record.
into the mic.
Leanne Baker.
Thank you.
You got to speak into the mic.
You ought to be able to hear me down
There you
there.
go.
Okay, so much on that. Okay, so what I'd like to know is,
No, I mean,
Yeah, just
where
put-
where I come in. I can't hold on to the button.
Hold on, I'm gonna hold on to that. We need to- I know. All right, so I'm gonna put this right next to your
Okay,
mouth.
thank you. I'm shaking, I can't use my hand. Okay, is it on? All right, Leanne Baker, 3 Webster Road. And you're taking part of 1 Webster Road, which I used to own, and also part of Monahanset, which I also own, part on there, which I'm not worried about that. But what I'm worried about is where you're gonna cut off of the corners of Webster Road. There's some boulders there, which are a monument of somebody who's buried under there, and a Scotch broom. So are you gonna take that corner out, or are you gonna cut in how it kind of looks like you might? But I wanna be reassured that you're not gonna take the whole corner out and cut in like it looks like you might in between the boulders and you go that way. And same with Mr. Hallowell on the opposite side, which is number, what is he, 2. He's got the same sort of setup. So I don't think he has anybody buried under there, but, so that's what I'd like to reassure what's gonna happen there and what they're gonna do on the corner.
Drew, can you respond to that?
Yeah, hi, can you guys hear me?
Go ahead, Drew, please, thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull up the design plan. There's 247 sheets, so I'm trying to get to that location. The roadway in that area, Monahanset, is being shifted 4 or 5 feet to the north. It's hard to say from the plans whether that's going to impact her concerns, but I'm happy to do a site visit and meet out there and see what the concern is and see what we can do to avoid it during construction.
I can't hear what he's saying. Is he talking to me? Wait, I didn't hear you. Repeat it, please.
He said he can meet you out there.
It's right on the corner. I can't see it there, so. So it looks like you're gonna cut in behind. So I wanna know if that's really what it says, because it says right on the plan, boulders or rocks. So what does that mean?
If I may,
Yes, Drew, please.
so I just found the design plan sheet for this intersection. The boulders that are currently within the right of way are outside the limit of work. So anything under the boulders, behind the boulders won't be impacted as part of this project.
Well, they certainly, the water line people and the electric company people and the Comcast people went exactly around it and right down on the side, whereas you can cut behind it, that same stretch, and it looks like you're trying to maybe do that. Because the way that looks, it looks like the boulders are on the other side, and there's only one great big boulder. And it's been there for God knows how many years, probably before you all were born.
Drew?
So Erica, I believe, is showing the plan on the screen, and it does show the rocks on the east side of the intersection. The road is not being shifted north or east of those rocks. So I'm not sure the rocks will remain, but anything below ground at that location will remain where it is. If that answers your question.
Thank you.
Can I add one
Yes,
thing?
Erica.
Beyond the easements that we're asking to take, when the county already took these roads, that corner is part of the county layout already on both sides, just so you know, where the rocks are.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else here to speak?
I
Yes,
have a
please.
question.
Please say your name for the record. Thank you.
Mimi Huber, 3133 Monahanset Road. And I knew these roads were being taken because when I swapped, when I swapped land with the town way back when, half acre for half acre, I had to sign something that said that these roads would be taken, that's fine. But there was an older plan that I had met with people years ago, a few years ago, before COVID, so a while ago. And they were taking most of the land on my side of the road and doing the bike path on that side of the road. Is that still the plan? Because I can't really see on this piece of paper where the bike path will be.
Drew?
Yeah, So the bike path will be on the east and south side of Montahanset, so on the airport side of Montahanset, which is the odd numbered side of the street. So I believe that is your
That's
side,
still the same.
if I heard you correctly.
And do you know how far in from the road, current road, that comes into our properties? How much wider it will be? I know it's 40 feet total, but how many feet do you have to come into the property on our side of the road to put the road in?
So all of the improvements to the roadway, the drainage, and the bike path will remain within the 40-foot road layout. There are 77 of, I think, a total of 88 easements, which are just temporary easements that allow for final grading from finished grade of the newly constructed areas to existing grade at private property. So I'm happy to meet with you and look at the plans, but I don't believe there's any permanent improvements or easements on your parcel.
I think really one of my main questions and concerns is we just had town water put down on our properties, which was great and we're very thankful for. But there are now hydrants in that area and water lines. So does that all have to be moved now and pushed back into the properties? Or will they stay? Yeah, I don't know, because if that's bike path side, then you'll have trouble. You'll have to move those, I think.
Yeah, we coordinated with the water department and their engineer when they put those the recent water lines and hydrants in the road. We have them surveyed. We had them surveyed and put on our plans. So I don't believe that there are any conflicts between what we're proposing and what was recently put in.
Oh, great. Okay. I think those were my only questions.
Thank you. Anyone else present this evening to speak on this matter? Thank you, Brooke. Any commissioners' comments?
Yeah, I'll make a quick comment.
Matt?
This has been a long time coming. I had hoped that some of it would have been bettered, sort of 10 years ago. That didn't happen. If it had, we would have probably had this project done a long time ago, but I didn't win the day at the time. And so what I'm looking at it, I hope that everyone along the path is happy with the takings and happy with the amount of money that the town is paying and doesn't challenge it and drag it out any longer. So I just, this is a message to your neighbors and to the area to please not drag this out any longer. Let's get this done. So thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Any additional comments or field a motion on this?
So I'd
Motion to
move,
close the public hearing.
second.
Thank you. Moved by Malcolm, second by Brooke. All those in favor by roll call. Matt?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The public hearing is now closed. And is there a motion on the item? Yes, Erica.
I was just going to say, can you just make your motion to approve the order of taking as noted in your packet and reviewed?
So moved?
Second.
Moved by Matt, second by Brooke. All those in favor by roll call. Matt?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That item passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Our next order of business is item 7, which is update on Sheep Pond New Access Road and betterments. Erica, I think, is going to bring up a document.
I'll give an overview.
And I'm going to throw it over to the town manager to give an overview of the item.
Thank you. Sheep Pond Road, as I think we know, is located near a very active area of significant erosion. Sections of the road have either been lost already or are very close. A portion of the road was already relocated at least 10 years ago, maybe more. And this proposed relocation alternative access that we're updating on tonight has been in development for several years as well. It has required town meeting and state legislative actions, which have only recently been completed. Components to this proposal here include the conclusion of several real estate transactions in addition to what we've already approved at town meeting and through the legislature, permitting, surveying, design, and construction, and preparation for betterment assessments. We have a team that's been working on this, and everybody's going to give a little bit of the presentation. We have our Natural Resources Director, Jeff Carlson, Public Works Director, Drew Patnode, and our Real Estate Specialist, Tracy McDonald, and I believe our attorney, Vicky Marsh, is on. So Drew has prepared a PowerPoint here. I think, Jeff, you're going to take us through the initial, pointing out the location of the proposed relocated road and the status of permitting. Drew will review the options for the types of road to be constructed as well as the potential costs. And between Vicky and Tracy, they will review the status of the real estate transactions that are necessary for the road to be constructed and ultimately turned over to the Nantucket Conservation Foundation as well as the betterment assessment process. So I think we're going to go to Jeff first. Well, yeah.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. So obviously Sheep Pond's a very active area for erosion. We track this area regularly. Leah Hill, our Coastal Resources Coordinator, and Morgan Nelson, our Coastal Resources Tech, are out there on a pretty regular basis. We've even installed kind of 3 separate monitoring stations just since December. And we've seen erosion in some spots there of up to 3 to 5 feet in the last month. So this is kind of critical importance. Erica, if you want to skip to the next one. So a little history real quickly. Back in 2014, when we really started paying attention to this a little bit more, you can see since that time, we've had 7 structures that have been demolished or removed from the area in its entirety. All right, keep going. And then we've had another 3 that have been relocated back further. Some have changed lots, some have not. So there's been a pretty aggressive management by homeowners there to stay out of harm's way, but we still have some access concerns. All right, Erica? So just to kind of, again, walk through the history, you can see the lower left is the picture in 2014. That's after the first time there was a new section of road constructed. But you can see kind of that sawtooth configuration that was still in place for the most part. And when you look to the upper right, you see the current configuration where a couple of the seaward teeth of that saw have kind of either eroded or threatened, and some of those homes have been moved. All right, Erica? So just some quick examples. As you can see, this is 16 Sheep Pond Road. Those structures have been primarily removed from that site. All right, Erica? So this was at that same spot. You can kind of see in 2021 the kind of distance we were there where you had the deck, enough space for a spa, some additional vegetative area, and then 3 years later, that deck is threatened and it's currently on cribbing, waiting to be moved. All right? Again, 28 Sheep Pond Road, kind of a similar story where we saw this go very quickly. So it's a very active area. All right, one more, Erica. We'll make a quick apology on this slide. We did mislabel this slide. This is not near 21 Sheep Pond Road. This roadway breach is at 38 Sheep Pond Road, but as you can see, that's the portion of roadway that failed. All right. And then here's down by 10 Sheep Pond Road, kind of what used to be the end of the old road where it's fallen in again. All right, Erica? Down by 43. So this is the kind of an overlap with 38. All right, Erica? Some of our current spots that are closer. This is closer down to 28, where it's getting very close. All right. And that leads us to our proposed alternative access. So when we've looked at these sites and looked at the CZM data from here, this whole area is showing an erosion rate of anywhere from 7 to 10 feet per year, depending on how long you look at the time frame for erosion here. So what we're trying to do is end the sawtooth pattern where we have these points getting close to these erosion hotspots. So we're coming in behind the existing properties. You can kind of see the sawtooth down. There's the corner at 28 on the blue dot. So we'll be coming in behind and tying into the existing roadway system that's not threatened. And this proposed roadway layout is behind all of the houses. So unfortunately, if this section of roadway is threatened, all of the houses that are served by the road would have either already had to have been relocated or removed, and then not necessitating the roadway anymore. So this is where it's being proposed. All right, Erica? So for those, obviously for us, putting the road behind the homes was of kind of paramount importance, just so we can ensure that the new section of roadway served that area as long as possible before we had to make other decisions about the private property. We also needed to impact the Nantucket conservation parcels that this roadway is going to be on minimally, and working with Mass Natural Heritage, trying to bisect the natural areas as little as possible was a requirement that they were asking us to do, which pushed it a little closer, but still trying to balance impacts to abutters as much as we could. We understand it's not an ideal situation, but we definitely want to get something in that people can use to access their properties. Um, and then obviously there's a cost consideration that Drew will speak to a little bit later. All right, I'll turn it over to Drew.
Thanks, Jeff. So as Jeff mentioned, the easement that was just depicted on the plan is proposed to be 30 feet wide with a proposed 20-foot wide unpaved road traveled way, providing access for residents and emergency vehicles. In total, that new roadway would be just under 2,000 feet in length. I was asked to put together cost estimates for the work, which are outlined on this slide, representing varying degrees of improvement. I should note that this work has not been publicly bid. So for now, the basis for these unit prices is the fiscal year 25 annual roadworks contract with Victor Brandon. The cross section of the proposed road as designed on the plans called for a 20-foot road width with 2-foot cleared shoulders and 6 inches of compacted gravel roadway surface, which is the cost outlined in the middle column. If we were designing and constructing this road to remain public, I would advise that 12 inches of gravel be installed, but of course, resulting in more excavation and gravel, thus increasing the cost estimate to the number on the left. However, since this will be a private road and the residents will be responsible for maintaining the roadway, we will be constructing the road to the specifications as requested by the residents and as approved by Conservation Foundation, whose land, of course, the roadway will traverse. I believe the latest directive from the residents is to not include in the final bid package any construction items beyond just clearing and grubbing the vegetation within the road layout. This obviously results in potentially much lower construction cost, which is outlined on the right. With that said, no gravel being installed in the traveled way will certainly necessitate more frequent and costly maintenance of the roadway throughout its life. You go to the next slide, Erica, and at this time I'll turn it over to Vicki Marsh to outline the betterment process.
Good evening. So the betterments are going to be established by General Laws, Chapter 80, Section 1, which authorizes the county to be able to assess betterments for a roadway improvement project such as this. They would be established by having a betterment assessment statement recorded at the Registry of Deeds. This statement would have a description of the area that is sufficient to show all of the properties that would be benefited by this improvement that are not within the general community of the town of Nantucket. So this particular area in Sheep Pond Road would be shown as a specific area, since this is the only area that's going to actually have the benefit of using this easement over NCF property. There's also going to be a reference to a recorded plan. And then this statement also contains an estimate of the cost of the betterments. The betterment costs would be including legal fees. They would include permitting fees, recording costs, costs for preparation of plans, and then obviously the road construction costs. We generally recommend that the costs that are estimated in these betterment statements are more than what the projected actual cost will be, because pursuant to the statute, the county would not be able to assess betterments for anything more than the estimated cost. So we actually try to have a very conservative estimate to make sure that we're going to be able to assess the proper amount of betterments once the project is completed. And this betterment statement would be recorded within 90 days after the adoption of the vote by the county to assess betterments for this project.
In addition, we're required to, by statute, have an order of betterment assessment, and that would be recorded at the registry upon completion of the project. It must be recorded within 6 months after the completion of the project, and that would have the actual cost that the project the cost that would be incurred by the county for this project. No betterments can be assessed for improvements that are greater than the estimated costs that we had in the betterment statement. The lien's effective date of the betterments would be as of the date that the betterments are assessed upon the recording of the betterment statement. So that at least puts the world on notice at the registry that there will be a betterment assessment finalized and put into effect. In addition, after this process has been completed with the registry, there will be the process that needs to happen with respect to the collection of the betterments. And Chapter 80, Section 4 provides that the county commissioners would then have to certify to the assessors that the list of the owners, property owners, are in fact the current property owners that would be assessed these betterments. And then we would have an amount that would be the total betterment cost and the assessment for the individual property owners. So that process needs to be done by the county commissioners, and that certification then goes to the assessor. And then from there, that the assessors then notify the tax collectors who put the betterment amount on individual tax bills. As far as apportioning these betterment amounts, homeowner can elect to have them spread out over a period of 20 years in equal portions. But however, you could choose to pay it off prior to that time or immediately upon the assessment without any interest being assessed. The lien is terminated upon the payment of the betterment assessment in full, and there is a recording of an instrument at the Registry of Deeds, which will evidence that the lien has in fact been paid in full, and that the assessment has been the lien has been terminated for that assessment. If the property is going to be sold to a third party, that lien would need to be paid off prior to that time and collected. So it can remain on the property for the 20-year period until it's paid in full. And then the period of time that we would probably start to put this into effect as far as adding to the costs that are going to be for the project, we're starting to accumulate those costs presently. We have the construction costs, and we've calculated out potential legal costs for the project, as well as the costs that the town has already incurred for the plans. And so dependent upon what type of roadway construction is finally decided, that will most likely to be the final determination that we need in order to be able to calculate what the potential betterment assessments will be.
Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you.
Tracy, are you able to review the status of the real estate transactions?
Yeah, sure. So we currently have a temporary easement that is going to expire in March. And we're looking to extend that easement so that we can get through the remaining portions of the process. Vicki is working on finalizing the memorandum of understanding between the town, Nantucket Conservation Foundation, and the homeowners. And we need to get that executed in final. And then we'll move on, to permitting and secure the permitting. And then I lost my slide there, but I think the next part is working on the construction. Is that right? No, you went to the next one. Yeah. So then we'll work on executing the permanent easement between Nantucket Conservation Foundation and the residents in exchange for the conveyance of 50 Alter Rock Road, which was the subject of the Article 97 legislation that we secured in July 2024. We also agreed to convey the paper roads that are within the Conservation Foundation's parcels, and we'll have to do an order of taking for that. And then that actually has to move into a land court process. So those will be conveyed later on. And then once we get the permitting in place, we can move into the construction phase to create the access road. And then, as Vicky discussed, move into the betterment process.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I
please.
just wanted to add that the conveyance of 50 Alter Rock Road, we would be conveying that deed to NCF upon completion of the construction of the road and execution of the easement agreement. And then the other part of the transaction, which are the conveyance of the paper streets to the Conservation Foundation, would be handled subsequently.
Thanks, Vicky.
Just to add a tiny bit to this, and I think Vicky touched on it, and maybe Tracy did too. We do have a temporary easement in place right now overhead of Plains Road for access, because that's what some people are needing to use in the interim. And we have renewed it more than once, and we've requested another renewal. And I just want to point out that it's not, the message that we got back was sort of along the lines of a renewal is not necessarily a guarantee. So we're going to have to figure out how to address that if it comes to the point where the owner is electing not to renew that temporary easement.
Thank you, Libby. Erica? No. Oh, any commissioners' comments on this item?
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Sorry, Matt. Jeff has his hand up, but.
Oh, thank you, Tracy. Matt, you want to
Go to Jeff,
Go,
yeah.
Jeff? Okay. Jeff?
I was just going to add really quickly that the one outstanding permit for this is the natural heritage permit. That permit has been applied for. We've just been waiting to nail down final easement location and the final construction methodology, like what surface was going to go down, how wide, to finish up that permitting. But that permit is well underway.
Got it. Thank you, Jeff. Matt?
Right, yeah, that was one of the questions, because I know natural heritage can take a while. I think a lot of this, the paperwork and the land court, a lot of this isn't in our hands and can take a while. And so I hope that the neighbors and the Conservation Foundation realize that's the case. And, because it has to be done soon. Like we can't be, we have to have a temporary access or, et cetera. So that was one question. Also, the outline of the roadway easement, there's a sentence, since it is highly unlikely that the permanent alternate access will not be ready by that time. It's like a double negative, and I'm not sure what it means. I think it means that it might not be ready and we need to have more time, and it just isn't clear the way it's written. I assume this is a draft, and there's a couple of little typos, but it's not a big deal. But I think it means to say that it is highly unlikely the easement will be ready. But the way it's written, it kind of doesn't. Anyway, that's just for Vicky.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, it's page,
Just so you know, it's the outline of roadway easement
Yeah.
between the Conservation Foundation and Sheep Pond Road, and it's the first paragraph on page 1, right in the middle.
Right in the middle
Unfortunately,
page.
the delay is despite the request.
Yeah.
Right around there,
yeah, it's,
or right above that.
I can read it. Since it is highly unlikely that the permanent alternative access will not be ready by that time. So I'm looking at it saying, this is like a double negative. And it is sort of, I don't think it says what we mean it to say. And then there's down below, there were time constraints in bring the necessary, that needs an ing. So there's a couple little things like that in there that we can clean up if this is going to be something that's signed.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Attorney Marsh?
I just wanted to clarify that it is highly unlikely that this will be ready in time for the March easement. expiration. So we will need to have an extension for the easement in order to be able to complete this project. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you, Vicky. Yes, Brooke?
I just want to say thank you to the folks who have allowed this easement, given the extensive time that these real estate matters take to move through and the number of parties involved and land swaps and legislative effort. You know, this is more complex. You don't just run a tractor through a property and create a road. And I'd like to extend my gratitude on behalf of the board for the folks who have allowed their neighbors to have access to their homes while we work this out. And I hope you will find a way to, hopefully this will be reassuring that we are moving forward and we have a plan to move forward and get this done. And hopefully you all will allow a little more time for your neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. Matt?
Yeah, one other question, I guess, for Jeff. There's no roads of gravel out there now, are there? Or like, and does natural heritage look better, look more kindly upon a road that isn't gravelled? If it's more natural, are they happier?
I mean, they're typically happier with no road, but I think either way, they would prefer the more natural surface. It's less disturbance. All of the roads out there currently are kind of a mix, as most of them are dirt. They've definitely been worked on over time, and there's definitely some aggregate that's been added in spots and graded out and things that have come up. So it'd be pretty similar to what's there currently. But I also appreciate the need for roadway stability and emergency vehicle access and safe access for, propane trucks and those kinds of things. So I think we're happy to go out and get that permit either way, and I think that's definitely doable, but the dirt surface would definitely be easier.
Good, Matt?
I'm good, that's good.
Anybody else on this item? Any other commissioners' comments? Erica, just an update, right, tonight? No action needed? Okay. Thank you. We will move on to item 8, commissioners' comments, reports. Any commissioners have any comments? I have a quick one that I just want to update on. So a few town meetings ago, a home rule petition, actually it wasn't a home rule petition. It was a letter from the county was sent to our legislative delegation to request additional access to the housing court. And when Rep. Moakley was running for his election, and Senator Sear was briefed on this, and they have filed, the new legislative session has started, and they have filed their bills. Home rule petitions don't count for that, the filing deadline. And they filed a bill, HD 705, an act improving access to housing court, which has been filed. So that is good news. Rep. Moakley and Senator Sear are co-sponsors of that in their respective chambers, and that will be making its way through the legislature and have a hearing at some point. And yeah, just wanted to brief the public on that's the ball is rolling on that. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn since we've reached the end of our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Brooke, second by Matt. All those in favor by roll call. Matt?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are adjourned.
So moving along, I will call to order the January 29th Select Board meeting at 6:07 PM. And we will accept the agenda with no changes. And then, Matt, did you want to?
Yeah, I would. Steve Bender passed away last week. He was a former select board member. I served with him in my first term, like 20 years ago. He was, as we all know him, he's an island character. He cares very highly, very much about the community and about the harbor. He's one of the smartest guys that I've ever had the pleasure to serve with. He is, or was, brave. He's able, he doesn't really care what people think about him. He was someone who spoke his mind and, recited poetry here, which I was appalled. I would never do that, but it was Steve. He's also a really good chef. I've had the pleasure of having his eating there a couple times. He will, I saw him last week. I was driving somewhere and he was walking up Orange Street like he does, and he was moving a little slower. I didn't know it, but he's moving a little slower, but I was going to stop and I didn't, and I will, I wish I had. It was a couple days before he passed. I sort of wish I had done that, and life is short. He will be missed, so thank you. So I'd like a moment of silence for Mr. Bender. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, announcements, Libby?
This meeting is being video and audio recorded. We have some committee vacancies, and we are in round 4 of these. Council for Human Services, Council on Aging, Cultural Council, Town of Nantucket Scholarship Committee, and an alternate on the Zoning Board of Appeals. Information is on the town website, and the application deadline is February 7th. And subsequent to that, appointments and the committee process will be followed. The master plan outreach is continuing with some additional events. There's a master plan visioning process kickoff event with a group called Strong Towns. And this is going to be occurring on Thursday, February 13th at 5 p.m. at the Nantucket Inn. There's a session and a reception. It's free, but space is limited, so please RSVP if you're interested. That RSVP information is on the select board agenda and also on the town website. And you can still hold a kitchen conversation, which is a small group discussion. You can facilitate from anywhere. And you can get a little kit from the Plus office to help you with this. I've actually heard from a couple of people who've done it, and they said it's actually kind of fun and interesting. And that's it.
Okay, any select board announcements or comments? I have one additional feedback from our legislative delegation. Senator Sears' office reached out today and said that they have put in a request to the Department of Public Utilities requesting that they follow up on their letter that we received after the power outage, that they were going to undergo their own investigation. We understand National Grid has done their evaluation and have determined that there's no fault there, but we are reinforcing our request that the Department of Public Utilities assess as well and give us an independent review of National Grid's self-assessment. So that will be coming. So I just wanted everyone to know. Pete had brought it up last week in public comment. And then I think that's it. Anybody else? Okay, so that kind of rolls us into update on public comment questions from prior select board meetings. And I wanted to, folks have been coming to public comment and asking questions repeatedly that have been answered. And I just want to just make a couple clarifications. Ms. Lepre brought up that she was waiting for some statement from town council, and that really the answers have been on the webpage. We wanted to clarify that those answers were vetted through town council, so they are a response from town council, and that at this point, the adoption of family medical leave is in the hands of the union. So if any town employees want to continue to pursue that, they should be reaching out to their union delegates and their various unions, because this is a bargainable thing. And so far, the feedback the town has gotten from the unions is they're not interested. So if union membership wants to change that, they should reach out to their unions. And Ms. Perry brought up the 3-minute rule and the origin of the 3-minute rule. That information has also been posted online for quite a while, but I wanted to add an update that on February 12th, we have a draft of a new public comment, public engagement policy for select board meetings from town council that responds to various court cases around the state and legislative changes. And so this board will be reviewing a new policy at our February 12th meeting. So I encourage everyone to come and participate in that conversation on that date. And everything else is posted online. And now I'll open for public comment for any items that are not on tonight's agenda. Peter.
Thank you very much. Peter Burke, here representing the Chamber of Commerce Businesses. Thank you very much for the update and the follow-up from last week's public comment. I did receive a similar email from Senator Sears' office, so I appreciate that we're continuing to press for the answer from the DPU. That's great. I also had had a update for the SBA MEMA loans. Originally, we had to solicit data from our businesses, which we did, handed it off to them. They've taken the next step, and it's now at the governor's desk somewhere in the mix. I don't have a timeline update, but it's good progress to get that incident classified as an economic injury. That way, businesses would be eligible for 0% interest loans. I'll continue to update if they come through these meetings, then as well as on our website and through member-to-member emails. So thank you very much, and we'll stay tuned. I know last week as well, at the interest of not doubling up questions, from police and fire, if there were any notification letters, I believe our businesses had asked last week if they needed to get an official letter from when the shutdown occurred, the timeline. I think health department or fire department may have been requested to have a letter from the Stroll power outage. I'd be happy to make that request on the side if anyone from fire department or police department needs someone to talk to the businesses. I'd be happy to act as the intermediary rather than just select boards.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Toby?
Toby Brown. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. As the board probably knows, I'm sponsoring Article 29, which my hopes was to rescind, still is, the $6 million override that was voted in 2023 town meeting, which I believe many people voted for. It may not have really known the whole complexity of the article, and also how the money was spent, and possibly maybe the town didn't really want everybody to know how it was going to be spent. My reason for sponsoring the article is to bring transparency every year to this subject of affordable housing. For instance, what's the progress, et cetera. And that is why it is I called it in my little thing, the Accountability Act, and just how things are going, what are the financials looking, how are the tax, and so the taxpayers could see what's going on every year. So it's not that the town couldn't come every year and bring up next year 8 million, and the following year 10, but not this continued 2.5 to 6.5 million override that has continued to grow. So I had my finance meeting last week, and the legal team, Mr. Giorgio, who was great, let me know that in order to do this, it would have to be an underride, which I could not do, or it wouldn't be through the town meeting, but it would be through the select board. So it was a good learning experience to know what's going on. While doing this, I was happy that I learned about some of this, because I actually kind of find out what is going on with our money. So in that $6.5 million override, we are actually being leveraged to pay a debt service bond contract of $40 million. Thanks to Jerry Bloomer for letting me know that on the Zoom meeting. So that was very informative. I believe many of the taxpayers do not realize the implications of this override. Meanwhile, while the taxpayers are still on the hook for the $6.5 million every year, which will continue to get larger, the town is asking for more money, Article 28, to go to affordable housing under the Community Preservation Fund. There are other Prop 2 articles that I hope the taxpayers are paying attention to, because these things just continue and continue, and everybody's tax rates are just going through the roof. But I am just talking about affordable housing right now. I have two questions. One, I'm actually asking, from what Mr. Giorgio said, will the select board, I'm requesting, if they will bring that up, that we do an underride to get rid of that $6 million automatic. I think you're losing a lot of trust with the voters on this subject. We were told at town meeting by Ms. Moore that 2023, that Wiggles Way was going to be completed that fall of 2023. Now, 1 year and 4 months later, we still have no answers on what the accountability. So the second question I would have, when is Wiggles Way going to be completed? Because right now it's just a parking lot.
Okay, Toby, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else for public comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jason Graziadei. I came up here maybe a year and a half ago to ask about this, and I never really got a response, but we talked at the time about the land bank going into a hybrid meeting, recording their meetings, putting them on YouTube, allowing Zoom participation. I brought this up to them at the time, again, earlier this month. I know you guys may not have the power to compel the land bank to do that, but certainly I think you could be more outspoken and advocate that in a board as important as the Land Bank Commission do that. So I would just encourage you guys to advocate to have them, sort of come into the 21st century and be more transparent. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Okay, anybody else? Not seeing any hands up online. Looks like we're done in the room. Okay, moving on, we don't have any new business tonight. Next up is approval of minutes and treasury warrants, January 22nd minutes, and treasury warrants for January 29th.
Move approval?
Second.
Okay, by roll call, Matt?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That's unanimous. Okay, next up, we have real estate items. Tracy,
I'm back.
come back.
I'm back. So my first matter is part of the sewer department's CMOM gravity sewer project out in the Sconset area. I worked with David Gray from the sewer department and Kevin Rafferty at Hazen and Sawyer to secure an easement for purposes of construction and permanent location of new sewer lines in Jones Street, which is a private, narrow pedestrian way that runs between 18 and 20 Center Street from Center to Shell Street. We met with the homeowners at 18 and 20 Center Street a few times to explain and walk through the project, and we were able to come to agreement for the grant of easement before you tonight. Once accepted, it will be advertised pursuant to Section 3.3 of the Town Charter. I request you accept and execute this grant of easement as reviewed by Town Council Vicky Marsh in the form provided for the purposes stated.
Okay, any questions from the board or a motion?
No questions. Move to approve?
Second.
Okay, by roll call, Matt?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Tom?
Tom, aye.
You are Tom. You're still Tom.
There's still time.
And
least
the
I
chair
wasn't
votes
wrong.
aye. Yeah, okay. And next up?
Okay, next up is a license for 16 Broad Street. This is in favor of National Grid for the installation of a three-phase switchgear module at the 16 Broad Street corner of Federal and an associated concrete encased conduit on Broad Street. It's indicated on this sketch plan that Erica, I think, is putting up. The matter requires a permanent easement, and there's a warrant article for this matter at annual town meeting. It's a standard practice for the board to grant a license for the installation and maintenance of the equipment pending the town meeting approval and grant of the permanent easement. Town Council Vicky Marsh reviewed the grant of license agreement, which was prepared by National Grid and approved the form. And John Castro from National Grid is here tonight to answer any questions if you have any on the matter.
Okay, thanks, Tracy. Any questions from the board? Motion?
Move approval?
Second?
Okay, by roll call, Tom?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That is unanimous. And number 3.
Okay, on to a similar situation at Waite Drive in a 7 Amelia. And this is approval for execution of a license agreement in favor of National Grid for installation of an underground electric distribution system in portions of Waite Drive and 7 Amelia Drive, as indicated on this sketch plan that Erica just put up, which benefits the 19 Waite Drive seasonal workforce housing dormitory project. This is the same process as the previously stated, where there's also a warrant article at town meeting and pending the permanent easement. Town council also reviewed this grant of license agreement and approved the form. And Jose Vasquez from National Grid is here to answer if you have any questions on this.
Anybody else have a question? I have one. Tracy, I just want to ask the question that I know we have, we're working on request for proposal for development of that for the Affordable Housing Trust. Does this constrain that development potential for that lot in any significant way?
No, I actually raised that same question myself, and there is an existing easement area within, I think it's 10 feet right there, that's already in place. And so it's already been disclosed in the current plans that that area is for easement purposes, utility purposes.
Okay, terrific, thank you. If there aren't any questions, the
Yeah,
pleasure.
I have one question, just, there's those lots after that, will they connect to the hole that we're digging and then go further, or do we have to go back? Like, how do we feed the line? Is it enough capacity to feed the rest of the lots running along Waite Drive?
Jose, could you answer that question?
Hi, good evening, board. Yes, I can answer that question. That Wake Drive is actually fed from the other side, from Tacoma Way, I believe. So this will be a three-phase that is coming down from Amelia Drive just to feed this new proposed building.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of the pleasure of the board?
I'm fine. I'll move approval.
Okay,
Second.
okay. By roll call, Matt?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Okay, those are all passed. On to town manager's report.
Okay, first off, we have hopefully the award of a proposal for the operation and management of the solid waste facility. This is all in your packet and on your agenda information sheet, but just to give you a quick overview of this, we have a waste services agreement with our landfill operator for the operation of the solid waste facility with Waste Options Nantucket. It expires, as you all know, on November 30th, 2025. The town issued an RFP, request for proposals, for the operation and management of our solid waste facility in June of 2024, after years of pre-work that led to the development of the RFP. Proposals were due in September. A number of RFPs were requested, and numerous potential sponsors attended the pre-submittal site visit, which was here on island at the site. One proposal from Waste Options Nantucket ended up being submitted. That proposal has been evaluated by the required evaluation committee, which had on it the finance director, myself, the solid waste manager, and a capital program committee representative who is here, Howard Matz, and our solid waste consultant. We have a recommendation in the packet, which hopefully you will vote. And our consultant, George Aronson, I think is online to take you through some other points to be made about the proposal in the process. George.
Okay, thank you, Libby, and thank you to the board. Just very briefly, when we had come to the board in November, at that time, we had reviewed the technical proposal and had not yet reviewed the price proposal. There was also a town drafted waste services agreement in the proposal, to which the proposers had to respond, and we had yet to review that as well. And in addition, we've come before this board before and talked about purchasing the composter and the transfer station, which Waste Options had built on the site. And at that point, we had not had a asset purchase agreement to look at. And we felt that before, or our recommendation at that time was before actually making an award decision, that we should be further down the road with the evaluation process. At this point, I'm reporting that we've gone through all of those things. We've had back and forths with Waste Options on the waste services agreement, on the asset purchases agreement. We have looked closely at their price proposal. At this point, we're not ready to recommend execution of an agreement. There are a few outstanding items, but we've gotten to the point where we're familiar with the bulk of the agreement, which Waste Options has generally accepted the town's terms. We've looked at the price proposal, which is generally in accordance with and consistent with the RFP requirements. So at this point, what we'd like to do is recommend that the town go ahead and make the award to Waste Options. I mean, they are the only proposer, but we have confidence at this point that we can reach a full agreements both on the waste asset purchase agreement and on the waste services agreement. just a few comments on goals. The goals going forward would add transparency to the process, to have an agreement where the service fee matched the scope of services so that the town knew what it was paying for and there was a match between payments and performance. And also that we would have a baseline for going forward should there be changes, because solid waste always seems to be changing in terms of the services and the costs, and we want to be able to track that with an agreement that set a baseline. I think the committee believes that all those objectives are being achieved. We'll have a more transparent agreement than before. We'll have an agreement that tracks prices and the scope of services, and we will make that public going forward. We're not quite there, but what we would like to do is ask for the award resolution at this point, and the authorization to the town manager to negotiate the completed agreement to bring it back to the board at a future meeting. So I'll stop there. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sure. Any questions of the board?
No. Comment, I would like to see, for the record, I understand the committee has done a lot of work. I understand what the goals have been, but I would love to see a final report of this is what we've done and here's why we've done it. And here's how, the pros and cons of it. And here's how it's going to benefit us in the future, and have that, in the packet and have that on the record before we make a final vote. I'm willing to vote to move forward contingent on us negotiating the final points, but I don't want to, so I think it's important for us, so I think it's important not to, be completely done, because then how do you negotiate when you're done? You've given up all your leverage. I think that we need to, make a vote tonight contingent on the final points that George mentioned being achieved.
Yeah, the plan is that this will be agendaed on, remind me of the date, March, we had set a date, but I think the process is going to be that the final version of the waste services agreement will go in our packet. There'll be a presentation from the team to the board on exactly that, how it differs from the way things have been done in the past, and how we've achieved these goals within the waste services agreement. And then we will give the community time to read. It's 100 and some.
It's many pages.
Many pages. So anyone who wants to read it will give a week or two, and then the adoption of the waste services agreement would come sometime later. So the community really has enough time to review it and 2 opportunities to talk in public meetings about it before we adopt it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I was just going to say, we don't have a date yet because we're waiting for the final negotiations to occur. We did have a meeting with Waste Options yesterday, which was one of several that the team has been having, and I would say it's very positive moving forward.
Madam Chair, yeah, I sort of have the same thinking that my colleague has. This is a very important decision we're making, although we only have one potential person, but we've spent a lot of time on a lot of issues not as complex as this, and the information kind of came late. So I'm uncomfortable making a final vote.
I would say this isn't really a final vote. This is to award the proposal to the one respondent, subject to
negotiation.
Yeah, and that is, and then, as the chair said, that final negotiation, there will be a summary of the contents of the contract, which would be reviewed with the board at one meeting, give you some time to absorb it, read it, have the public read it and ask any questions as well, and then bring it back.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm quite happy with the committee. I think they've done a great job. They've spent a lot of time, and I'm actually been very impressed on their work. It's just that all of a sudden.
The way I look at this is a step 1 of a 2-step process, but I'll have Howard explain that a little bit in detail.
Howard Matz, and I've been integral to this negotiation process and the evaluation process. And Matt, what you said, I think, is really a good point, and we're not ready to share that, but it's a necessary thing to provide that summary. The comfort level that I can give you, though, because we don't have any facts on the table, is that both George and I have negotiated many of these contracts, and there's particularly nothing unusual in this, and it's pretty well structured. And I think it's good for the town.
Right. And I believe that, just, I believe that's the case, but I also know that, the last time we did this, everyone had, and it wasn't done as professionally, as tightly. It was, sort of things all for years. And I think what we're trying to do, I think is important, that we make sure everybody truly understands what the options were and why this is the best thing.
I think that's a great idea, and that's what the intention is.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And I think the bottom line is that this is in the best interest of both the operator and the town to have a really solid, clean contract that we can evaluate and understand on, for the duration. So that has been top priority for this group, and we have unbelievably great experts who happen to live here, Howard, and have expertise in this field. So with that, if
One more question. What happens, I'm assuming like the haulers and other people have been involved or have given their 2 cents. What happens if someone from the public or from there brings up something and we go, oh boy, we didn't think of that? Is there an opportunity to change it at that point?
Until it's adopted, it's not adopted.
Okay.
I would say, as a legal matter. John, do you want to weigh in on that?
No, that's correct. If anyone were to come forward during this public process and raise some good points, we could certainly take those under advisement, go back to waste options and see what we can accomplish prior to execution of the agreement.
I think that's important because, otherwise the public will say, well, yeah, you gave us something, and there's nothing we could do. So I do believe that it's important that they know that. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'd just like to state that this RFP was developed based on continuing operations at the facility as they are now, mostly because the idea of adding a complexity of, well, what if we try this type of recycling or that type of collection or whatever. But the important thing here is that this waste services agreement will leave room where the operator will need to adapt to emerging technologies, changing regulations, et cetera, over time, and that there's a process built in for that adaptation in this contract. So it's not a time today contract. It anticipates change in the future, which I think is in a much clearer way than the older contract. And we'll have much more detail on that when we have the final agreement, and we're bringing that sort of conversation about what was and what will be in more detail. So if the board is ready to do this, I'm going to read the suggested motion. That the board, one, adopt the evaluation committee's determination that the technical and price proposals meet the minimum request for proposal requirements and are the most advantageous alternative available to the town. Two, select Waste Options Nantucket to provide the solid waste operations and management services on the terms set forth in its proposal, subject to negotiation of the Waste Services Agreement, WSA, Asset Purchase and Sale Agreement, APSA, and related exhibits. And three, delegate to the town manager authority to complete the negotiations of the WSA and APSA and exhibits for consideration and vote by the select board at a future meeting. So that would be technically the motion we need from the board tonight. Anybody ready?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. By roll call, Don?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So that is unanimous. Okay, monthly town management report. And thanks to everybody on this team. I mean, it has been a big, heavy lift. So I want to just say I'm really grateful for everyone who's worked really hard on this.
I want to echo that, especially Cindy Sue, who's our Deputy Procurement Officer. She spent a massive amount of time on this. It was very complicated. There was a lot to sort out. And the guidance of George Aronson cannot be overstated either. George spent, I know we're paying him, but he spent probably above and beyond a lot of time on this, as well as Howard, and who's just a volunteer, but his input has been incredibly helpful, and everybody else involved too. Chris Lowe, our solid waste manager, has been terrific, as Howard just said, and JP, our waste options rep, is here. So thank you, JP, and everybody else. Thank you for mentioning that. The town manager management monthly activity report, it's in your packet. You did get in there late. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Just wanted to mention mostly the bold items are kind of updated from the prior report. Obviously, as you know, we've been working quite a bit on the 2025 annual town meeting and election. The warrant's adopted. FinCom is meeting to develop its motions, and outreach planning has begun. Your strategic plan follow-up, as you know, you adopted your updated plan at your meeting last week, and we're now in the process of scheduling our focus area teams to start developing our updated implementation planning. The town manager e-news, unfortunately, due to some staffing shortages right now, we're going to be issuing a winter e-news, which will hopefully cover January, February, March. We're not going to be able to get out 3 entire newsletters. The e-news, by the way, takes a lot of time, although people seem receptive to it, so that's great. The fiscal 26 budget and capital prep. You heard from the capital program committee with their report last week. The budget you heard about from town admin on December 11th. We've gone to the school committee, and most of the departments and town administration is going to be going to the FinCom this Saturday for our budget reviews there. We spend an awful lot of time, really, mostly Erica does, on road and sidewalk closures, house moves. All of that is constant. There's a lot of coordination. Things change at the last minute. They have to be moved around. It's really amazing the way Erica sorts it all out. Public records requests. We have found ourselves, a couple of employees that is, spending an immense amount of time and effort with public records requests. We have basically 2 full-time positions now dedicated almost entirely to responding to public records requests. We are working to develop a job description for the committee coordinator position, which a staff member in our office was supposed to be filling that position, but all of her time is now spent on public records requests. So we do have funding in the budget to develop this committee coordinator position because we need help with things like open meeting law compliance, minutes oversight, and we have run into some issues lately with minutes because of lack of oversight due to not available staffing, meeting posting, scheduling. There's a lot of coordination that needs to be done with all of the committees. And at some point, we're going to come to you with our town manager, town administration departmental report, and we're going to get into more detail about public records requests and
Libby,
why they take so
how many
long.
requests do you get daily? Like,
I have that information not right at my fingertips here, but I can tell you that the review of emails, for example, can range from maybe 10 or 20 to 8,000. And they have to be gone through. Sometimes there are a lot of redactions that are necessary. And we're getting into a lot more than just email. Body camera footage from police officers is now requested as a public record, and a lot of the individuals that might be shown in body camera footage have to be blurred out. That takes a massive amount of time. So I'm not really complaining. I'm just saying it takes a lot of time.
this sounds like it sounds like those like unfunded mandates.
Well, it's
like
definitely an unfunded mandate.
It
I mean,
sounds like
we want to be transparent and responsive to things, but it does take a huge amount of time.
Madam Chair, Libby, while you're on the subject of minutes, it seems to me that in the past we had wonderful minutes. Now it's something we need to work on.
Well, we no longer have a minute taker.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, that's not a job that we're getting flooded with applications for. So I have this a little bit later in the report, but I'll just skip to it now. We are very actively looking at and have a couple of pilot efforts underway to use AI to do minutes. AI often, there are different types and different applications. So we're getting together a group to sort of share hacks with how to get minutes done more effectively and efficiently, and how people are using AI to develop their minutes. So we think that perhaps ultimately that could be a very useful tool to get the minutes done in a timely manner.
Because I have gotten complaints about slow minutes, and sometimes the ones I read are not what I would consider very good.
Well, if we
well done.
had a committee coordinator type of person to help, excuse me, review and provide advice on how to do minutes and have some oversight there, then that would be a lot better, but we don't. So hopefully we will sometime soon. But we definitely acknowledge, and we have an open meeting law violation with the Finance Committee right now because they're behind in their minutes, and it's not really them, it's us. We need to provide the minutes for them. And we have had staff changes, so no one was doing the minutes for a little while. So there's a big push to get them done. But I'm not criticizing, but when you're doing them really quickly to get them done, the quality is not the same. Okay, so moving into the category of strategic and major initiatives, as you know, Baxter Road alternative access and the geotube erosion control project are well underway, and there's things that happen on that probably daily. We have a lot of internal discussion that's also progressing regarding the assessment of betterments for the Baxter Road alternative access project and potential associated legal issues. You had the Sheep Pond Road update tonight. The proposed new Our Island home. So
Before we get that,
Yep.
Libby, on the betterments, do you have any of that in do you have conceptual? Do you have anything that you could share?
I don't have anything to share right now, other than I guess I might as well just say, the cost it's a huge cost. The town will have to upfront the money for the alternative access. We're talking a big amount of money and not a big amount of abutters.
Yeah.
So there will most certainly be legal challenges to that, and we're working through how to minimize that with town council. Proposed new Our Island home. We have a steering committee. I've discussed it before with you many times. We're meeting very regularly, one to three times a month. We're continuing work on design, permitting, and other elements of the project. Our outreach plan is underway. We've had a lot of discussions with the Friends of Our Island Home regarding fundraising. And we have been updating the project information on the town website and discussing next steps if the voters do not approve the funding. And we've had a few questions about the fundraising. If we were to receive, significant amounts of funds dedicated to the project, then we still need to seek an appropriation for the total amount of the project. However, ultimately, the borrowing would be decreased by whatever it is that we get in. So we wouldn't need to borrow the full amount. You follow? But fundraising and, for really big projects like this, it is pretty common to have a nonprofit do some fundraising and outreach for you, as the school did with the Friends of the Nantucket Public Schools. But the Friends of Our Island Home is a pretty tiny group, and they're working very hard to support the project. But none of us has a professional fundraiser on staff, and that would be an odd situation for the town to be in anyway, to do that. So it's going to be a bit of a struggle maybe to get lots of fundraising in place.
Yeah, I've heard different people mentioning the same thing. I think that if for it to be successful, it'll need a sort of you need to have somebody on board running it, someone that knows what they're doing and holding people accountable, and to ask their friends and to do the outreach and all that type of stuff. And it needs, and I think the Friends of Island Home need, some people who are, added to their board to help them to do that. And so if that happens, then I think there is a chance that, that people could get behind this. I'm very worried that, that this is going to be a tough ask at town meeting or at the ballot, and everyone will just go away. I think that if the town is serious, I think something like that has to coalesce. I would offer to do it, but I have a million things myself. And I think that's the problem with a lot of people, is that they're,
Well,
so.
yeah, and, go ahead.
And by town, you mean the community?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the community, like the town doesn't have, we don't have people that take minutes, which are required in by law. So how are we gonna, how are we gonna pull one or two people away to run a fundraising campaign? It's not gonna happen. It's gonna have to come from the community, right? Like proper. So I hope it does.
And Madam Chair, it's kind of how much are you going to raise? What's, you know, it's a large number. And I don't think any of the recent capital campaigns on this island have anywhere near that figure.
Madam Chair, just quickly, I think there was some kind of talk going around that for other communities might have received a very large millions of dollars in federal and state grants. And as far as I understand, that is not true, and that is not available to us. So I just want to kind of put that out there, that there's unfortunately, no $25 million grant. Yeah.
We've explored several potential federal grant or loan avenues, and they're not, that is not really an option.
You don't have a big pile of money behind your desk downtown,
No,
Libby?
I wish I did, but I don't. Maybe it's in the wall somewhere. So lots of time being spent on our island home. Long-term solid waste planning, you heard our update tonight. Waite Drive seasonal housing, that project is well underway. It's readily visible. Lots of other projects going on. The concession buildings, as you know, some time ago, we engaged a firm to undertake a condition assessment and recommendations for specifically jetties and Children's Beach concession buildings. And that report, I believe, is complete. And at some point soon, we just haven't gotten to it yet. We're going to schedule that for board review. The Washington Street corridor and downtown flood barrier projects, these are well underway. Public information sessions have been held, more are being held, and I really want to commend our Coastal Resiliency Coordinator, Leah Hill, for all the time she has spent on this. She's very knowledgeable about it. She's willing to talk to anybody about it, and she's really pushing it along. The Human Services Grants Review, as you know, there was a review of the process several months ago, and out of that came a recommendation to undertake a community needs assessment, Health and Human Services community needs assessment, and a scope of services for that is in the procurement queue, so it's getting ready to be issued. You heard about the Surfside Area Roadway Project tonight. That's a lot of staff meetings there. PFAS, many things going on there, sort of newish since we last updated you. DEP has installed some monitoring wells at the 2 Fairgrounds property over next door here. A first round of samples has been undertaken and received, and we're waiting a report back from DEP. The PFAS work group presented to the Board of Health a week or two ago. We have a work group update to the board scheduled for February 19th. The work group is working on something that we're calling Summit 3. This invited a lot of stakeholders in together to discuss PFAS issues on the island. And this week, our team presented a paper at the annual New England Water Environment Association on PFAS work here on the island. So that was really a good accomplishment. And we are working with the water department as needed for the securing acquisition of the mobile water treatment system, which we know was being discussed a couple of weeks ago due to the levels of PFAS in one of the public wells, which is not in use right now. Housing initiatives, as of course we know, many things going on there. The SHI list, subsidized housing inventory list, is in the process of being updated, and that needs to get to the state in early March, I believe. And there is an RFP out for year-round rental housing for town employees. This is something we've issued before, and because we've rented so many properties in the past couple of years, we need to do a procurement process. And if we don't get any interest there, then we can proceed to rent as we can, but really there ought to be a procurement process. Lots of staffing issues. Thank you. The chair mentioned the paid family and medical leave status. Collective bargaining is required for that. We have contacted all unions about it, and definitive action is really in their hands at this point, and could also be brought up at the next round of collective bargaining negotiations, which will be commencing probably later this year, because most of the contracts are up in 2026. I know, it feels like yesterday. We're in the process of reviewing our non-union compensation and classification schedule for any updates. When we reviewed this all with you a couple of years ago, We indicated that we were going to be refreshing it on a regular basis for market adjustments, so we're in the process of doing that. We have some vacant positions out there which we're working to fill, and we have some very decent applicants, and some of them are in the hiring process now, not quite public yet till it's not done till it's done, but that includes the deputy housing director, a second real estate specialist position, and our social media coordinator. I added a category to the report here for unanticipated and immediate response items, which pop up all the time. We had one today for the federal freeze, the freeze on federal money to cities and towns across the nation, and that is still being kind of sorted out. It was imposed and then it was sort of rescinded, and then maybe it's not. It's needs a lot of focus. The right whale vessel slowdown restrictions, hopefully we never have to deal with that ever again. The Vineyard Wind turbine blade failure follow-up, we're waiting on Bessie to reschedule the public informational session that was previously scheduled for February 5th. Now we're waiting. Tacoma Green, we had to make some changes. We are going to have to make some changes, somewhat minor, to a portion of the two fairgrounds parking lot area to meet MEPA permit requirements for that project, which apparently were unknown before very recently. So we're working to scramble to get that done.
Libby?
Yes.
You have on here the offshore wind related to South Coast, and it says not currently active. And I think I want to clarify that just for the public, that at this point in time, it's in our best interest to sort of wait and see what happens at the federal policy level. There is no window. The window for action on our part does not close. We have time. So we're just sort of waiting to see what the administration does with regard to that particular now mostly permitted project.
Yes. Thank you for that clarification. Mass Municipal Association is always having a variety of webinars, and a lot of us have been attending them. I think we're going to hear about the annual conference in Boston that was last weekend in a few minutes. I mentioned working on the use of AI to assist with more timely completion of meeting minutes, and the monitoring of new and emerging federal mandates, actions, orders. That is almost becoming somebody's part-time job in the past week or so. And then lots of meetings. So that is it for the report, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Anybody? Thanks, Libby. Okay, we'll go to select board reports and comments. Tom, do you want to talk about last week?
Yeah. So myself and the chair and Greg Tivnan and Rick Sears, assistant town managers, went to, and Kevin, our project manager, was also there. And we went to Mass Municipal Association Annual Conference in Boston at the Convention Center at the Seaport. There is a massive trade expo with, I don't know, multiple hundreds of exhibitors, including state agencies and electric vehicles, and Andover had a mobile town hall and all kinds of things. And you get to go to breakout sessions, and Julia Novak, who is our strategic planning consultant, presented on succession planning, and she actually chose Nantucket, and that was interesting to hear her talk about Nantucket when we were sitting there. That was interesting, and got to meet colleagues, other select boards, town councilors, town managers, DPW directors, et cetera, from all over the Commonwealth. The governor was there, the LG was there, Lieutenant Governor, and Senator Markey and Warren zoomed in from, or they were on tape because they had to vote. And so it was interesting. A couple little tiny things that I learned. We sat there for a resolution on PFAS, huge issue throughout the Commonwealth, up and coming. This was about funding and shared resources and how to advocate federally and through the state, et cetera. And I mentioned Andover a second ago, very interesting that they had a $480 million capital item at their town meeting for a new high school, which did not pass. So yeah, when their officials told us, we were like, wow, okay. That's some numbers. So it was interesting to hear about those kinds of things from other officials throughout the Commonwealth, and definitely learned some things, I'm sure.
And I would just say it's such a pleasure to spend time with folks who share our commitment to municipal governance, and the importance of local governance and the work we do on a day-to-day basis right here on Nantucket, and to be around hundreds and hundreds of other people who are equally committed to their communities is inspiring. We also I heard a presentation at the Women, it's a WeMo lunch, that was the director of the Executive Office of Health and Human Services, and that was interesting to hear Kate Walsh speak about her role. It is the largest state agency, 23,000 employees, talk about a complex system, and it was just really interesting to hear someone who came out of the healthcare. She was the CEO of, oh my gosh, it used to be Boston City Hospitals, where I always go, but it's not that anymore. Anyway, she came out of healthcare into government for the first time in her career, and it was interesting to hear her talk about that. So just, a lot of inspiration, a lot of ideas, and only one pickleball question.
Madam Chair, I was just going to say, usually when the last year everyone was like, oh, Nantucket, talk about whatever. Today, the only question that I think we got asked about was about pickleball, so it was funny.
Anyway, anybody else? Committee reports?
Coastal Resiliency met on Tuesday, discussed downtown flood barrier, and it was interesting because a couple of the people that were impacted, a couple of neighbors showed up, which was very helpful because one thing that was interesting is the rain garden that was installed on the corner of, where is it? Down for the Nantucket Hotel?
Easton Street.
Thank you.
North Beach.
There we go. The Eastern and North Beach one of the neighbors there said they have seen a huge change. There's no puddling like there was previously, which I thought was, it was good information for everyone to have, I think. And so anyway, and there was, so sort of some misunderstanding from just looking at the maps, thinking it's one thing. And so then when we all talk about it, it starts to get clear. But it just shows me the importance of having multiple meetings. And it would be nice if more of those meetings were covered by the press, Jason. And so I think that would be helpful because it's really important. And I think that the more people realize what we're trying to do, the more they'll get on board and help support some of it and have good suggestions, et cetera. So.
Thanks, Matt. Malcolm?
Yeah, just the health departments issued sort of a statement about some of the potential avian flu virus. There were large quantities of dead birds found in the mainland. It hasn't been totally confirmed yet, but the bottom line is if you find dead birds, several of them together, call the health department.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. We've come to the end. Anyone want to go home?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
By roll call, Tom?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Yes.
Don?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Again, thanks, everybody. We're letting you get on with your evening early tonight. Thanks for listening. Have a good night.